Welcome back to Beautiful Warrior. Welcome, everyone, whoever's listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Vilma Parrilla, and today I have the privilege to have this beautiful woman of God with me who is going to be sharing her story. So, and again, just this space is to encourage women with storytelling of women who have decided to cling on Jesus. So today we have a woman that has decided to do that. So Alice Perry, we welcome you today. Thank you so much for being here with me. It's really an honor. So let's go ahead and get started. So Alice,
Yes.
can you please tell us a little bit about who you are and what your life is about?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to come on here. I'm really excited about this. But a little bit about me. So, I'm from Maryland. I've been born and raised. I've lived in the same city for literally all of my life. I've never gone anywhere else. But I've been here and I am a mom of three. I'm married and just even just right now in this season of just really allowing God to just do what he needs to do in this new season of my life. But that's just pretty much where I am right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, that's something I think I've told you this before, but I think that's something that I find really beautiful is, the fact that you're a mama, you're married, but seeing, your relationship with your children,
Mhm.
to me that's really, really beautiful. And like I told you before, I think, there's people that I feel like you meet throughout time that perhaps you don't even have, like, you've never really been around them as much or anything, but you find some sort of connection to who they are.
Mhm.
And spiritually speaking, you find, connection. And so I feel like,
Yeah.
that's someone that I respect a lot, in that sense is you. So I think, it's awesome to have you and to be able to allow other women to hear, part of your story.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your journey with the Lord. Like, I know bits of your story. You've gone through a lot, so can you let us
Yeah.
into a little bit of that?
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's a story. It's a
Right.
lifelong story. So if you're listening and you're in the same boat where you're kind of like, wow, my life is literally a story. Well, girl, I'm right there with you. I'm still in this. I'm still in this story. But to kind of give you just a little replay of what my life has been is it's just a lot.
And literally, when we spoke before this, we actually that's what we were laughing at because we were like,
Yeah,
"Oh my God, there's not one thing to tell. It's so much." But I think it's
literally a
beautiful.
lot. Listen, God had to do a lot of stories in my life. Um, but what it started off really was I was 17 and I found out that I was pregnant. And I mean, that literally just changes your life in so many ways. So I found out I was pregnant at 17 years old, literally just finished high school. It was like summer of like just graduating from high school. And then I had my handsome little boy at the age of 18. So you can already imagine just, oh my God, like how the heck did it happen? I mean, and you also have to think too, like I grew up in church. So I've always like I was just born and raised basically in church. And so it was literally a shock for everyone. I mean, just people even close to me. It was like the most biggest shock in life, like kind of like, how in the heck can this happen? Or that's crazy. And that just kind of happened. And I feel like from that point on, it's literally been like a a journey that I never imagined myself to be on. I think for a lot of years too, I've always been like, why in the heck am I on this journey? Like why has my life been this way? But God has a plan and a purpose for everything. And, I'm thankful that I can come here today and kind of share more of a story that was life changing, but in the same way, a story of redemption, that life doesn't end, especially when you have Jesus on your side.
Right. Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I would agree. And so connecting to that, to what you just shared, and finding out that you were expecting at such a young age,
Mhm.
how do you feel like that defined your relationship with God? I mean, you said you grew in the church and obviously finding out you're pregnant, and then, even the response from people around you. How did you
Yeah.
feel like you processed that in your relationship with the Lord?
Yeah. I mean, I think definitely around that time, it was, um, like I said, I was born and raised and I knew who God was. I knew who God was based off of what experiences other people had.
Yeah.
But I feel like this was my experience for me to get to know who God is, And so this was definitely the changing point of me. Okay, like I need Jesus. Like this is not that, yeah, it's not okay. Like I need Jesus in my life. I need to figure this out. And, just even along the lines of that, I mean, at the time, I ended up, in a sense, I don't want to say completely, I was a single parent, but I was single. I ended up becoming single like 6 months after my son was born. It was just a decision that I had to make. And it wasn't easy. It was definitely really, really hard. But definitely because of that, it was just kind of like, all I have is God with me and I need to know. And that's the only thing that I could really cling on. And I was even talking with a close friend the other day and I was like, if I didn't have God in my life, I don't know who I would have been because of my experience. I could have either gone a totally, completely different route, but I really am thankful that, I had parents who were there for me. I mean, even then, even though it was a shock to everyone, they were still loving and they were still there as a support, which is something that I'm so thankful for, because I know not a lot of people can say that, but, I am thankful about that. But I'm just thankful that I was surrounded by people who reeled me in and also helped me to really just lean on God, because that's literally what helped me get through that season of my life.
Yeah, and that's really beautiful. I feel like, and it's really interesting. Sometimes I think in our lives we think of scenarios that we go through as, because I could think of scenarios that I went through that you think, oh my God, this is like in the lens of someone, it could be this is the end of you type of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just really beautiful to see how God takes that and redeems, and if anything, brings you in closer. So,
Yeah.
I really love that. I really love that, your child's coming to this earth, which, birth it's a miracle. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I really love that you felt connected to the Lord through that experience, but also the people around you, being a community to you. I really, really love that. And it's true, not a lot of people have it, but, I think, and this is the reason why I think it's beautiful to have moments like this where people can hear, other women can hear your story, because perhaps they don't have someone to connect to, that
Mm-hmm.
has gone through a similar thing, but now they'll be able to hear your story. So I'm excited. I'm excited for them
Yeah.
to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that, part of your journey was single parenting to some extent. So
Mm-hmm.
after experiencing single parenting and then later reconnecting to your father's children, because you did mention
Mm-hmm.
you're married and obviously, you're married to him.
Mm-hmm.
How did you process your previous season as a single parent, or what you went through then, into coming to this new season the Lord was granting you?
Yeah. I think it was crazy to be honest. I mean, if you were close to me at that time and I was in my singleness, I would be like, I am never in my life going to get back with who my husband is now.
Yeah.
I was like, no, 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 no. Like everyone just knew. And it was crazy because we even had the relationship where it was just kind of like passing by. Like, oh, you're here to see Anthony. Cool. Like I'm gonna go the other way. Like we didn't even have a friendship or anything like
Wow.
anymore to a certain extent, because there was just so much that we had gone through.
Yeah.
So I think definitely for me in that single period, it was just really that time to allow myself to find that healing, because there was so much brokenness. And it really is easy to just be like, well, I can cover it up through whatever it is. You can literally insert whatever it is, whether it's I'm going to just go out and just be with my friends, or, I'm going to go find a different relationship, or I'm going to go, do things, I don't know, go to the club. Like there's just so many things, right, that you could insert to just cover up the hurt, that you're feeling inside. And so I'm really thankful that in that season, I was taking that moment to just really focus on God, focusing on, okay, like I'm in this season of my life. I don't even know why I'm like going through all this stuff that I'm going through, but God, like I just need you, and it was just that focus of me and him. And it's just kind of crazy because and it's crazy because I even tried to date other people. Not that I tried to date, but I went on dates. And it was just like this thing where it was just kind of, it never felt right. And a lot of times I was like, but this person sings really great. Like, but God has a reason for everything. Right. And, like I said, it was just really that moment of just really focusing. And I'm really thankful for that time because it wasn't easy. Like I said, like I could have easily gone a whole different route. I could have done something completely different. But I'm just really thankful that during that time, it was just focusing on me and God. So I knew I could have that firmer relationship between him and I. And then when it came to it switching, like, oh man, like this person that I said I'm not going to ever go back to being with ever again. Like, God, like you're kind of changing things around. Like it's kind of crazy. Like I don't know what you're doing there, but that was in itself something like only God could have done that because like I said, I mean, I was just adamant of like, no, there is no way that I'm going to go ahead and go back with him. But it's so beautiful to see how God can heal and restore, right? Just different areas too. And I'll never forget, there was this one, I was at, what our church called like a house of life, which is basically like a Bible study. And that night, the leader was like, I know that there are some people in here that need to tell someone that you forgive them, even though they've never said sorry. And that night I said, oh, hell no. Like, God, like, I was like, no.
I felt that one.
I was like, no. Like, you mean to tell me that I need to go and basically tell someone I forgive them when that person has never, ever even admitted to the wrongdoings and all that stuff. So it was just a really heart-wrenching time. But like I said, I mean, God knew what he was doing. And I remember, I sent him a text. Like I said, we didn't even have really a relationship or anything. And I remember sending him a text and it was just, I feel like that moment, it was a healing process for me. Like it was definitely like a release, like, okay, like I'm not holding on to this burden, like this weight is not mine anymore. But at the same time, I didn't know how much that forgiveness would extend to him for him to wipe off, I guess, that shame too, in a sense. Do you know what I mean? Like that was literally the moment that things started shifting and, in our relationship. And it's something that he needed, because I think he just also needed that reminder, like, there's grace, as hard as it was, it's just, it all boils down to the grace that God gives us. And, I mean, I'm thankful for that time, although it was definitely really hard. But I mean, here we are now, we're 6 years married. We have 3 kids now. So it's been beautiful to see God, just kind of do that. But I also want to add to that, even though we were able to get back together, like I said, only through God was it possible, but even in our marriage, we've had really hard years. There was even a year I didn't think we were going to make it through, and that could be another story for another day. But like, but like I said, like, God is just so good and he's just so faithful. And in every season, no matter how hard it has been, I've seen God come out on top, and that for me has been the biggest reward, is just knowing that God is for me, no matter what comes against me, like God is for me. He goes before me. And I know that no matter what mess is happening in my life, or no matter what obstacle I may face, it's so amazing to know that, God fights for his children. So,
yeah. Yeah, I felt that one because yes, forgiveness is really interesting. God is really funny in the way that he kind of challenges us when it comes to that, but it's really interesting and powerful actually, as you said, what happens when you choose to release a person, in whatever aspect. I mean, like relationships and friendships, family matters, and so many different things. Like forgiveness is always key. And I've experienced that myself. It is very difficult,
Yeah.
it is making that jump is difficult, but then yeah, the rewards of it, it's just really, at the end of it, is really beautiful, and you just see so
Mhm.
much growth. So I'm glad you got to be able to do that, because it takes, I mean, I feel like there's processes I've been through that in terms of forgiveness that have taken me years to get to
Right.
a place where I'm like, okay, I think I'm good. I think, I forgave. It's definitely nothing easy, but I think, as you said, and I think you wrapped it up beautifully in the concept that there's grace. There's grace
Mhm.
um for you, and grace for the person, that wronged you. So
Yeah.
I really love that. And thank you so much. And I another thing that I can say that I've told you this, I think, a couple of times, and I think I recently told you, but just the idea that I think you're someone who's very authentic, and I think that also helps, in the sense
Mhm.
of letting others into these things. Because a lot of times, all of us, right, for people, it's really hard to let people into the mess. We're okay with
Yeah.
letting people into, uh, as I like to call it, the 98% of our lives, but that 2% is really difficult to let people in. But I think something
Mhm.
you do a great job at is letting people into that. And it's very respectable, because people can also see, that's actually, I feel like, when you see God's grace even to higher levels, in
Right.
the mess, right? So
Right.
um keep doing that. I encourage you to keep doing that, and I thank you, for being authentic and even sharing with us today, that part of your life.
Yeah.
So in the concept of rapping, and obviously there's, I mean, that's just like a nitbit of, the wrap around
Yeah.
of the whole story, right? But
Yeah.
in everything that you have shared, that you've been through, and even things that you haven't, would you say that um everything you've been through has made Alice who Alice is today?
Yes. Yeah, I definitely believe, that everything, like I said, has had a purpose. Even though in the moments we're just kind of like, I don't even understand why this is happening, or for whatever reason. But God knows. And God also knows what you can and can't handle.
Right.
And so, and it just even goes back to that grace. Like, God extends that grace to you in those moments, when things are harder, even when you kind of make those choices where you are like, I'm just trying to do my own thing, but it's just like, no matter what route you take, whether, you are on the right track or whether you're not,
Yeah.
God, like I said, he's just going to go ahead and make things work together, and, it even says that in the Bible, he makes all things work together for the good of those who love him. And it's just so true. And I think about that a lot, because I'm like, what would my life had been if I did not experience what I did? And I can't imagine it. Like, I think about it, like in hindsight, I'm like, oh wow, like I have like mornings I can sleep in, like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have kids like coming up and like, in all directions. But at the end of the day, it's like, no, like, like this is, a blessing, everything that came out of my life has been a blessing. And, God does not make any mistakes. So I definitely believe that everything that has happened in my life, he's all allowed it for a reason. And, I'm just thankful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, and I'm excited. I'm excited for even what you're doing now. I mean, there's even so many cool things that you're doing now, and connecting to people, and with your business and everything. And
Mhm.
so I could say that, as a, okay, so as a last thought, right? As a
Mhm.
last thought of everything, that you've gone through, what the bit of that you've shared with us today, if there's a woman today,
Mhm.
that's listening to this podcast and is saying, wow, like, I connect so much, to Alice's story. I've gone through something similar. But perhaps maybe this woman at this particular time doesn't have, the hope that you have today, or doesn't have that sense of encouragement, or perhaps is navigating life alone. What is something that you, as a last encouragement, as a last bit of hope, what is something that you would like to say to that woman?
Yeah, I would want to say that don't give up. I know how easy it can feel, and it seems like an easier route, because believe me, I planned a lot in my in my mind to be like, I'm just gonna give up, God, like I'm just done. Um, But no, really, like, don't give up. Like, you do not want to miss out on the blessings. You don't want to miss out on the miracles. You don't want to miss out on just what God wants to do in your life. And like I said, like, I know it's so hard. Like, believe me, I've had nights where I'm literally just crying and kind of like wrestling with God in a sense, just like upset and just all these emotions because I'm like, I just don't understand why I'm going through these things. And sometimes there really is no rhyme or reason except for the fact that God is gonna, allow this story to one, show other people too, like, there is hope for you, that there is a greater plan that God has, in store for you. And, you just have to keep pushing through in order to be able to receive what it is that he has for you. Because when you keep fighting for it, you're going to see it. And the worst thing too is you don't want to give up and allow the enemy to be like, oh, I won this situation. Like I made it, like you didn't get to see who God wanted you to be because you gave up. And a big thing that I've had to really understand during this whole journey and something that I've learned from my mom, I'm so thankful for her because she's told me, like, don't give up, even though I'm like, no, mom, like, don't you see, like, how can you tell me to not give up when literally I feel like the rug has been pulled under my life and I'm like trying to grasp and like nothing is happening, like nothing is changing. And she would always be that reminder, like, don't give up, but also like, remember that your fight isn't against flesh and blood, your fight is things beyond that, and if we had that mindset, it's kind of like, okay, like, I'm not going to give up. Like, I'm not going to allow the enemy to take my life, to take my promises, to take all the things that God has in store for me. Like, we have the authority to claim what is ours. We have the authority to fight against it. We have authority to, proclaim that, what, God has these promises. God has said this about me. And, I am believing it, I'm proclaiming it. And, all areas of my life, God has his hands on. So yeah, I mean, I definitely would say, like, don't give up. Your life, has a purpose, your life really does have a purpose.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Alice. That's awesome. And yep, I agree 100% with what you're saying. And I really love that. I really love that you made the connection back to the spiritual realm because it really is. I mean, at the end of it, I mean, there's always a fight that is happening in the unseen, and truly, that is something that I've also made, part of my life, just fighting and understanding that it's bigger than what I can actually see. So I really love that. And I love that you have your mom, again, just a concept of community, and having your mom to remind you, it's really special, so thank you so much for being with us today, for your encouragement and for sharing of your story. Can you let us know if, there's a woman that perhaps wants to reach out to you individually? Do you have perhaps, like, can you share with us your Instagram or ways that they can probably get in contact with you directly?
Yeah. So my Instagram, I believe, because I'm so used to like modern.esther, but now it's changed. So let me check really quick. I know it's my last name, but it's my first and last name. So it's Alicia, ALICIA Perry, PERRY, and that's it for my Instagram. But yeah.
All right, thank you. Great. So if you listen today and you find a connection to what Alice is saying and you want to ask her questions individually or reach out to her, then you can hit her at her Insta, and then you can also see the amazing things that she's doing on there. So that'd be great. So thank you again, Alice. God bless you. God bless your family.
Thank you.
We are excited to see you in the future. And again, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, thank you for listening. If you would like to connect with me, you can follow us at Beautiful Warrior Ministry on Facebook and Instagram. If you need support, prayer, or desire sisterhood, I am here to serve you. Don't forget to tune in next week for our new episode. Blessings!